I started to get into the story a couple months ago and cut myself off, but this is a story about my first boyfriend. Yeah. And I got really excited to tell it because, Josh and I were talking about the depiction. Like when I asked him to do it, I was like, "Hey, would you do it?" And I don't remember how. Oh, it was like in Hell Will Be in Good Company, and we started talking about Jews and how they and the Christian depiction of Jews, and so it made me think about my first boyfriend, who was also a Jew. And it's crazy. I grew up down in Portage Lakes, and I think his family was the only Jewish family in our midst. But I never really thought anything of it. It was never he talked to me about it, but I was never like, "Oh man, you're a Jew." I was just like, "Hey, you're cute." Right? Because that's how it goes. And so it was my freshman year of high school. And I had just come out the summer of my 8th grade to all my friends, and then I had no friends because I came out. And so I'm really depressed, and I had done a little bit of theater when I was younger. I hate, even now, being on stage in front of people, but I took a little Saturday morning acting class at the Portage Lakes Career Center, and for the final performance, we had to do monologues for our families, and I literally stood at the back of the wall and recited my monologue into the wall because I was so nervous. And that's, I still wish I could do that now, but... But so I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go. I wasn't really super involved in a lot of activities, but I was like, I'm going to go up to the high school. My school, it was the 10th, 11th, 12th grade, up at the high school, 8th and 9th at the junior high, and on. And so I was like, I'm gonna go up to the high school and audition for this show. I did, it went okay. I got cast as some ensemble member. That would be like the 8th chorus member. And it was the first day of our rehearsal. It's the first one. And I go, and they have the cast and everyone get into a big circle. We're there, and I'm there. I'm wearing my big, long, black trench coat, because, I was one of those kids. Yeah. And that was sort of my armor for a while. And I'm sitting there in it, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wow, all these guys look like real dorks. There's no one, isn't the theater supposed to have a bunch of gay people in it? Where are all the cool-looking gays? But there weren't any, including myself. And there is this one guy, and I'm like, that guy, he's the king of the dweebs. Look at him. I don't know why. Why is he looking at me? Stop looking at me, dude. That's what I'm thinking in my head. But I'm just turn to my friend, hey friend. Dude, that guy's looking at me, it's so strange. But that day, he and I got talking, because, we had to do one of those, crazy ensemble improv games that everyone does. We got to talking, and I was like, oh, okay. This Jared guy, he's not... Oh, yeah, I'm terrible at editing names. Whoops. This Jared guy, he's not so bad, I guess. He seems like an all right guy. And slowly, because we were the freshmen, we were down at the junior high he was one of the people that volunteered to pick all of us up, and because he had a big green Jeep. And so he would come down and pick up a group, and there were like 3 different groups that had to get picked up. And I always got the privilege of like sitting in the front seat with him. And he and I would start talking. And slowly but surely, he became that nerdy looking guy to this guy that I'm like, oh man, this guy's totally cute. I think I have a crush on him. Because that's how it works. That's how it works for me, just like how it worked with my husband. He was that nerdy looking guy. I was gonna open with how like it was really nice to be in a relationship where you can talk about like your past people that you were in love with, but then he totally blew it by being like, oh, you're reading that poem? Yeah. But no, seriously, it's actually really nice that we can talk about our past and people. And so anyway, Jared and I were riding in the car, and so finally, I start writing him these little notes that I would give him at the end of the day. And so finally in one, I professed my feelings for him. The next day, he came to pick me up, and he was like, or he came down to the junior high, and he had me ride in a different car. And I was like, oh, fuck, I screwed that up. And then it was the weekend, and so we didn't communicate. And then on Monday, he gave me this. And it says, Ben, because I was going by Ben at that time. Let me tell you a little bit about me. Something I've never told anyone else and wouldn't admit to myself until recently. I don't know when it all started for me, but I can remember back to the locker room in 6th grade, looking at the other guys and just not wanting to stop looking. Once or twice I got, well, you know. Anyway, I explained to myself it was normal because I was going through puberty. That went on all the way through 8th grade, and it just got worse. In 9th, I caught a glimpse of a not too bad looking guy without a shirt on and said to myself, oh, he's cute. And I freaked out, but as usual, I made another excuse. This happened several more times, and I did the same each time. Always a way to explain it. No, I am not gay. I couldn't let myself be. As the Jew, I get enough shit. It was too hard for me. But then, damn you, you came along. I saw you sitting across from me and was attracted to you immediately. Then we talked. The more we talked, the more I liked you. Please keep this under your belt. Which I feel is okay, because he just got married too, so it's pretty awesome. He's out in California now. I want to break it to my parents before it gets back to them from others. I'm guessing that answers your questions mostly. You're the only one that completely knows. I don't know if anyone else has figured it out. I am still attracted to women, but that's not hard to talk about. After all, that's normal. But my other feelings are stronger, and I am sort of happy that I finally told myself that it's okay. I think the first thing that made me look again at myself was hearing about Devin, who was this super fabulous kid that we went to school with, who graduated and went over to Parsons. And he was one of those out-bitchy queens that we all know and love. So many of my friends are his friends, telling me that they didn't have a problem with him, and knowing that someone that I would meet someone my age that's gay made me a little more comfortable with it. When I heard Jamie talking about him, I sort of said to myself, I can't hide much longer, not just from the world, but also from myself. And then there was you. Damn you. Of course I like you. Are you comfortable telling me about your whole experience? Do you have or know of any books on this whole subject? How do I tell my parents? Is this real? Am I just making another excuse about something bigger? What do you think? Who is it safe for me to tell? How do I know? Help me. I'm confused and a little scared about what might lie ahead of me. And then he shares a poem that he wrote. And while he was going through, needing to come to terms with it himself, I was like, fucking over the moon, right? So I'm like, oh, he said he liked me. And so I was allowed back in his Jeep. But now, right, we had to play that game where I could no longer sit in the front seat because, well, everyone would know we liked each other then. So I had to sit in the back seat now. Well, other people sat in the front seat, and we would just, the entire ride up from the junior high to the high school, we would just sit. I would be in the back seat, and we'd be looking at each other in the rear view mirror, and, I'm fucking surprised we didn't crash at that point. Sorry, I'm getting fucking sweaty, people. And then finally, he wrote me this poem. And it was after a night that we had spent on the phone talking to each other and just really, in that way that nowadays kids don't understand, where you just like sit and sort of listen to each other, do whatever you're doing, because you can't stand to be off the phone from each other. And he said, hey, I wrote this poem last night after we got off the phone. I watch as you look down and laugh, your eyes searching the ground for the secret you're not sure you should tell. You look at me and smile, tell me not to worry about it, another black coat cartwheel, and I'll see you tomorrow. But remember those nights, talking on the phone together, me listening to you, listening to me, and the compliment I gave you. Your hair, your eyes, the way you look in a suit, and your smile. Oh God, your smile. That penetrates me like an X-ray. Not strong enough to kill, but enough to leave my heart completely visible, pulsing. I watch as you look down and laugh, and I smile. You see, I know what you're thinking. Me in your arms. Swoon, right? A boy wrote me poetry. This was the fucking dream, right? It was every little gay boy's dream to have someone write poetry about him. And so we started hanging out more and more, and play practice was over. We were getting ready for the next show, which was Cinderella. I would go over to his house after school between our different club events. We would talk every night on the phone. And finally, we decided to make it official. And it was the week of Christmas, or of Christmas break. And, I'm like, wow. I have my first boyfriend, somebody that I really, really care about. And it's the last day before Christmas break, and he comes in, and he hands me a notebook. And in the notebook is tucked a letter. And he says that his parents found a note in his pocket, one that I had written, and that he could no longer be my friend. And, well, I was heartbroken. It's fucking heartbroken. But as heartbreak makes for good poetry, I'm really happy about it now. But I didn't ever really, sort of recover from that heartbreak. I even carried that until I graduated college, or was supposed to graduate college, and I met my husband. And well, he's not necessarily as good with the words. He's really not. But what's nice is that, and we're still young, right? But that's the crazy thing about love, too, is it's not necessarily about poetry, but it's about, as we talked about last time, the people who can help you clean up after you shit your pants. And so it's a different type of love, but one that I much prefer. But I did write this poem. This was one of the many poems I wrote. I recall that night together where fireflies two-stepped before our eyes, their dance candlelight for ours. Spinning in dizzying circles, we laughed, falling to the ground, collapsing into each other. The damp grass backlit us as words mingled sapphire teardrop stars. My hand absent-mindedly tracing lines on the back of yours. We spoke of everything that night, growing old and living young. We spoke of your fear of Winnie the Pooh and my green skittle obsession. We spoke of the scar on the inside of your lower left arm and of my hairline fractured ankle. We spoke as two people in love, both too afraid to admit it, skirting around the truth with beautiful coal chamber eyes, and guess what happened? I studied your face, learning, memorizing. I became familiar with the bridge of your nose, the way your frameless glasses balanced, that slight dip below your eyes. It was all there, your story, unfolded. You watched my mother's drunkenness in the silhouette of my lips and felt my father's beatings in the remainder of one dimple. We stayed in the Kentucky bluegrass until the sun began to scorch the horizon. Hey, I can actually see it now. A shooting star flitted across the paling night, leaving a trail of smoldering space ruins. Me, not wanting to waste it, and you, your wish, well, that's your secret. And so, going with the theme, and how I'll be in good company, is that both Jared and Kyle, they were both straight when I met them, and yeah, right? I was the corrupting influence that brought both of my loves to hell with me.